I really can't believe 2024 was hijacked from GT. This was meant to be a GT year. What happened? Are we even gonna get a GT unit in the festival? And you better not bring up Cell and Freezer, boy. That's closer to a future unit than anything. Okay, my name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here, we're going to be discussing how 2024's year, which was meant to be GT, was completely hijacked by everybody else. It was like a full wholesale. Everybody was getting buffs. I thought it was meant to be a GT special. What happened to the Grand Tour? But there was so much that happened this year, and I am very well aware that the year is not over, and at the time I'm recording this video, it's not even part 2 yet. But even if they dropped something for part 2, the likeliness of them dropping a GT unit for part 3 is like 0. And then if they didn't drop something for part 2, but they did drop something for part 3 that is GT related, it still wouldn't change the fact that this year just wasn't a GT year, even though it was somewhat advertised that way. Now, to a degree, you can say we headcanoned it because they started the year that way and they didn't get one single buff in 2023. But come on, dog, you avoid them the whole 2023? That's dark. Let's get into this, man. Now, even though this video is painted more negatively, especially with the discussion being how they were hijacked, they did do some things good, which is worth commendation. So let's go through what they accomplished this year first. The first thing we should acknowledge instantly is that they revived a dead tag. GT didn't get no buffs in 2023. Their last buff was Tag 4s and Android 17, if I'm not mistaken, in 2022 festival. So to go from no buffs in a year to literally the first month them getting units immediately that are attributed to GT, making them relevant again, is quite a big deal. I believe at the start of the year they dropped Bomku and they Zenkai'd Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, and just of those 2 units, people were somewhat running GT, which is already a big deal in itself. We've seen so many tags come up out of nowhere within the last 2 years, and it shows that if the developers really want to, they can revive a tag with just one release and 1% sparking. They don't need to waste any time. 1 Legends Limited, 1% sparking, and 1 Zenkai. Even a plat could bring a team back to life straight from the dead. And they did that. I have to give it to them. GT became somewhat relevant. They obtained relevancy, and I think that's worth commendation. They also achieved a couple spotlight moments. That's not to be swept under the rug. For GT to take the spotlight during big points in the year, I think more than anything there was 2, but I'm going to mention a couple others as well. The biggest in the year being LL Super 17, Legends Limited Super 17, the guy that the Dragon Ball Legends community said had resemblance to a certain dictator in the 1940s. You guys should know who I'm talking about. Super 17 was out here terrorizing PvP. Couple blast starts, you're doomed. If he catches you with a green card, put the fries in the bag because he's taking your green card. I'm implying like he's sending you home because he's a dictator. I don't know if you get it. It was also super hype with the way they did Super 17 because he was the Battle Hour 2024 reveal unit. They literally put him up on the big screen. I was there in LA, Los Angeles, and I will tell you, out of everything that was revealed during the Battle Hour, nothing got louder cheers than Legends Limited Super 17 release, which is actually crazy to think about because there was Sparking Zero there and Dimer. But I think the Legends guys just really dominated the space. I'm not saying that it was most hype for people around the world. I'm simply saying in the venue in Los Angeles. Us Legends guys went hard for him, man. I don't know what it is. Haha, nobody can beat me when I'm Super 17. There was obviously also the anniversary unit, Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. He had major spotlight. I think the game was the most fun when he released, at least in my opinion. Everybody was just one-shotting everybody. If he started a combo, just put the fries in the bag. Oh my god, it was a bad time if I'm being honest. But it was fun because the unit looked amazing. Ultimately, that's what people want, and they want to use somebody that they enjoy. But it was really overwhelming with the fact that they already dropped 2 Fusion Warriors, Fusing Super Vegeta and Fusing Gogeta Blue. But hey, that set him up really well to be run on a good team. Was supposed to be GT, but whatever. We also had the likes of Legends Limited Omega Shenron. Don't know how he saw spotlight, but it wasn't on GT. He was shining on powerful opponents and people were sneaking him onto Fusion Warriors as well as Majin Buu Saga. His Indestructible was really his saving grace, but he is a good unit out of that. Simply, he wouldn't have lasted as long as he is currently if he didn't have that. And honestly, I'd say that's pretty much it. Bomku died off pretty quickly, and Super Baby 2, people didn't see the shine in him simply because he released right before the anniversary. So people would rather save for the anniversary knowing he's most likely going to be game changing, which it absolutely was. Instead of summon on Super Baby 2, he's definitely not a fan favorite or anything like that, but he was super good. It was just that the spotlight that he could have stood in wasn't noticed until late, which is sad on him, but it is what it is. I think the bottom line is, if you wanted to build a GT team, you could, but they never stood out, which is why this video's got quite a sad undertone. But I want to give them props for all the releases that they they dropped this year because they were mostly good and they were able to make the team really relevant throughout the year. Now let's keep it honest, let's keep it real, let's keep it a stack. Let's talk about their failures, man. They did a lot wrong and we really have to address it, especially now that we're at the end of the year, only a month left of the year. We're already in December. How'd that happen? Now I mentioned what they did good, they gave GT relevance, but what they didn't do is give GT dominance. You had a whole year buffing them every other month throughout the whole year and they were rarely a top 1 team. In the scenario that there was a GT unit that was top 1, which they had at least 2, that unit wasn't being mained on GT. GT was rarely ever the most popular, most dominant team throughout the whole year, but they had the pieces, just not enough to synergize to make them the absolute number 1. If we went through the whole year, there was easily too many points where there were other teams that were absolute number 1s. With the Ultra Golden Freezer release around the Super 17 release, we had powerful opponents that were clearly number 1. You could even argue androids with Red Cell Zenkai. That's absurd. During the anniversary, the only top 1 teams were either Fusion Warriors or Majin Buu Saga, and that also is absurd. Post anniversary, we moved into powerful opponent dominance. Sagas from the movies for a small segment with Ultra Turles and the Majin Buu Saga units, but you could also add Omega Shenron in that team, Shock, a GT unit on another team again. Then they ended it off with Ultra Majin Vegeta right before the festival, which is Majin Buu Saga again. The only time I could say GT was a top 1 team was right outside of the festival 2023, but that even be stretching it simply because of how dominant Ultra UI was. They just became really relevant, but if you have a whole year to buff a team, you should assert some dominance, but they just didn't. It's an absolute slap in the face, especially when you see how powerful Majin Buu Saga is. The GT guys, I'm sure they're happy regardless because they got a good roster of units, but you would love to stand at top. I'm a Fusion Warrior main, so I know how it feels to be at the top of the game. Hey man, it's not my fault that Vegetos and Gogeas just go crazy every single time, but I'm always on the winning team at least once a year. But as a GT guy, I'm sure you looked forward to being the number 1 team in the game and you just weren't able to achieve that. Maybe once at max, but you'd have to argue your case. It wasn't blatant. So with dominance, it shows that they didn't really have high team value. The units had very good individual value, but they were better off placed in other places because they synergized better with other units. Majin Buu Saga during the anniversary gets Ultimate Gohan and Buu, and they're able to become a top 1 team, while GT gets bust throughout the whole year and they can barely be top 3. Man, not cooking. And then to end this segment, I'm really just going to talk on their decision making on buffing other tags, overvaluing other units and tags, while keeping GT in the shadows even though they've been buffing them all year. Majin Buu Saga should speak for itself. I've already spoke about them a lot in this video alone, and I've actually dropped a video on them recently about how they ruined ranked PvP. And then there's just a couple other units they dropped for what you could say no reason and decided to make them Saiden's greatest soldiers. Let's talk about Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. Anti-Blast, Explosive Green, the counter, Nameku's blue card, Endurance, Last Stand Unit of Death. All of this? Why are you glazing him so hard? Well, it's Gohan, you know, it must be in the contract. That makes the most sense. Golden Freezer. You know, if they put out one LOE buff, every LOE glazer comes out of the mud to glaze this team. Burst Form Freezer is all of a sudden relevant again. You see Full Power Freezer, the yellow one, which is so dark. When it comes to glazing units, LOE guys, they will die by that team. They only need one buff and all of a sudden they rise up. GT got so many and they weren't able to stand on top. Dark. And Triku. Alone he isn't that great, but the purpose he serves is so much, it just takes away the spotlight from GT even more. If you take Super Baby 2 and you take Triku and you swap their releases, I know they did a Saga from the Movies campaign, whatever. If you swap the placement of their releases, people would see Super Baby 2 as the guy they need, plus he's a GT unit. It was definitely just poor positioning from the devs in my opinion. It's common sense that people are less likely to spend prior to the anniversary because the anniversary is going to be the biggest selling point. But clearly the way they handled GT, it just wasn't up to par. Now to end off this video, I've got some things that I assessed myself. It's not going to be everything and it's not perfect, but things I think they should have done or should do that could have redeemed or could redeem GT. Honestly, I think it's unredeemable. One unit at the end of the year is not going to be enough, especially if it's an Ultra. The Ultra will be good, but what's it going to be? It's going to be an Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Goku. We all know that. If it is a GT unit, that is. Obviously, people are going to run him on Saiyans and Sun Family unless they restrict his kit so much. And why would you restrict the highest rarity unit in the game? They haven't done that so far, besides from the free-to-play Red Omega, but he's free-to-play. Every other Ultra can literally just be run anywhere and they will do good. So I don't expect that for 4Q if he is an Ultra for this festival. Anyways, let's look at what they could have amended. Let's start at the start of the year. Bomku. Why why was he nerfed in comparison to all these Majin Buu Saga units? Make him cancel buffs on blue and give him key on entry. Those two things are enough to make him relevant throughout the whole year, and he would have been above outstanding. All these Majin Buu Saga units have it anyways. Just give it to Bomku and then GT will be a lot better. Nobody will be crying about him. He would have been a top standing unit. You gave it to MVP 17. Why are you guys scared? There's actually nothing to fear here. You've done it so many times. What's one more, but at least for the right tag? Let's talk about Super Baby 2. I mentioned it earlier. They should have gave him endurance plus buff cancellation. Again, Majin Buu Saga got so many units like that. Evil Buu, Ultimate Gohan, Majin Vegeta. Even if you don't give him both, give him one. Zenkai Kid Buu. You can't give Super Baby one? And just to be nice, even if they felt it was too much, they could have conditioned it so that he only gets endurance and the ability to cancel buffs from Blues, Ultimates, and Awakened Arts if he's being run on GT. They've done that before with a lot of units kits. For example, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the LF, they've somewhat restricted him to GT. That's the best way he can shine. It's shown for his plat as well. So to make people run GT, considering it's a GT year, again, somewhat our headcanon, they can restrict such overpowered things that they're given for free, by the way, on Majin Buu Saga for the GT units. So at least they have something special. Keep it like a secret fan club. For the end of the year, I'm backing this fully. I think they should drop an Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Goku. I think it'll be probably one of the more lackluster Ultras that we've got in the festival, but it's meant to be GT, man. I think it's the most wholesome way to close it out. They dropped 2 Universe Rep Ultras last year. They ended it with Ultra UI and started it with Ultra Hit. I'd say for sure Super Saiyan 4 Goku is more popular than Ultra Hit, or just Hit as a character. So it can't be that bad of a decision, especially considering how they've already started the festival. It's not like it's got high sales anyways, at least in comparison to other festivals. This one didn't hit top grossing in any country. I don't think it's enough, but it's something for the GT guys to get, and then you won't have to worry about them heavily going forward. But in the first place, I think it was an absolute disrespect that they didn't get one thing throughout a whole year, 2023. I don't know if I said that was the last thing, but this last thing here, they should just never go another year without giving them buffs. That's absurd. I think every single tag in the game should get something, even an EX, something every single year. But getting nothing is nasty work. Can someone fact check me on if they got even anything? A Zenkai, a free-to-play EX in 2023, because they didn't get any premium units. But just so GT can continue to get stuff, I'm really going low and even asking for EXs. That's how much nasty work it is for GT. Now, if for some reason you haven't been able to tell, this video was recorded prior to part 2 even starting, and all of my points are still valid. We didn't get anything GT related for part 2, which I'm not too bummed out about. I already threw the idea of part 2 being GT related into the bin. Hopefully we just get Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Goku. But at this point, the festival has been kind of lackluster for a lot of people. It'd be better if we just get Ultra MUI or Ultra Beast, man. Just forget about it. I will say I'm a big fan of the Daima Goku, but the Super Saiyan 2 Goku into Super Saiyan 3, wow, that's a ridiculous drop. I've been using clips from them throughout this video, but just to emphasize again, this video was recorded prior to part 2. They really went the full mile with the Majin Buu Saga stuff, and then went an even extra mile just to show you that they like this team. I ain't never seen a team get glazed like this before, and I thought Universe Rep was bad. This is clearly a new ceiling for them. But you know, I'm not even a major GT fan myself, but I'm calling a spade a spade. There wasn't much I wanted to say in this segment, but what I will say is, I'm personally enjoying this festival, but they clearly didn't put any more effort in than they've ever put in the past. I think the general idea for most players is that they should increase their bar, and they haven't done that. Their unit selection wasn't the best, and in terms of events and chrono crystals, it's pretty much mediocre, but this will be for another video. Better luck next time, eh? But yeah, man, that's going to be the end of the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. GT do need justice, but it's a bit too late now. The year's already pretty much done. The max they can do is drop one more Legends Limited or an Ultra, and that would put the fries in the bag, and in most cases, that unit, unless their kit is restricted, won't strictly be used on GT anyways, because the player base, they prefer the other teams. Why? The other teams are just better. That's how the game's always gonna flow, and it is what it is, man. You just have to come and accept that. But at least if they went out their way to make GT a better team, people would shift towards them more than anything else. But that just isn't seen because they wasn't getting the best treatment as a team, but rather as individual units. Press that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name is Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.